Okay, we're live. This is Emanating Sovereignty, the first episode of 2018. I actually have a great guest who's been in the business of sovereignty for a long time. He's been doing it. He's been going through different changes and different views, and it seems he's probably at the precipice or the apex of his work as of now. I have Ken Dost here, D-O-S-T, and for anyone who is unaware of Ken, see this. Google. Let's just Google Ken Dost. See who he is. And you can see there's a few things that pop up. The one is the IT&J committee. And if you look at the Emanating Sovereignty YouTube page, International Tribunal for Natural Justice, which was created probably, I think, 2014 or 2015. But as of now, it's not. I don't know what's up with it now. Let's see what it says. When Ken Dost's home fell into foreclosure, he began using his background in architecture to map out where his mortgage went. One bit of data discovering during his research was that SEC auditor Raja Patel had already researched his own $500,000 mortgage, discovers that it's been sold, copied, and resold. Fundraiser to help Ken Dost appeal the fraud. Different things, claims of living. So it seems Ken is someone aware and also making others aware of the major fraud that everyone knows is going on. We all know the system is not a. Here, let me stop screen sharing. We all know the system's corrupt. So this is just a conversation with Ken Dost, and this is Emanating Sovereignty on the date of 1/14. How are you doing, Ken?
I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. I'm what you just brought up there. That's like ancient history. Oh my God, that was my first blog talk was with those people with who was it with
Sasha Stone,
Sue Rhodes, and Rebecca Cope, and Kristen
Oh, okay.
That was my first interview I did. That was about back in 2015. Oh my God, that's ancient history.
Yeah, and it's only been a little over 2 years, and so much has changed since then.
Yeah, so much has. I mean, I look back on. God, I was into it about. I've been into this about 10 years now, a little over 10 years, and I had a lot together back in 2015. But I mean, I still don't have all the pieces in place. Now the puzzle's just totally complete. Now I can sing praises of the puzzle now, whereas I didn't have it all in place back in 2015. But so that was ancient history when you brought that up. Yeah, I mean, it's to the point now where it's just trying to get people to hear what we're dealing with here and just give a listen to it and kind of deviate and kind of step out of yourself for a little bit and listen to another point of view.
Yeah, and
we're marching to a.
Well, I was just saying there's so many different ways of going at emanating sovereignty, or making yourself in the daily practice of being sovereign. And there's so many people like Anna von Reitz goes at it. She was at it speaking about the Vatican for years. Now she's going into the military, trying to combat it on that force. And then there's Rod Class teaching private attorney general stuff and other people like that. And Ken seems to be at a precipice now in finding out the importance of our digital entity, as well as that people refer to as straw man, or that entity that's created that's dealing with the actual system on paper. Been doing these different things and having realizations in his research lately. So I'd just like to open up the floor to you, ask, so what's been going on currently? What's been major right now?
The major right now is going into Treasury, getting a remedy at this point in time. We're at the final stages of a real remedy and real solutions here, to where we can give people the answers. And actually, we can give people the answers now. I mean, there's remedy everywhere. All we've got to do is open our eyes to it. And I'm excited. I mean, I think within this is going to be a real good year. I think that this is the year that we're going to expose the bar attorneys and leave them naked, stripped, and the emperor has no clothes. I think that's what we have to do. I think that we are at a stage right now where society has to take a look at itself and see where it's at, see what's working, see what's not working. I think that I understand people's fears. I get it. I've been through the court process. I get it, and I feel, and I hear every single day. I hear people. Somebody will drop me a message about getting evicted, or getting the sheriffs at their house. I mean, to me, that's just absolutely disgusting. It just breaks my heart every time I hear those things. So, I mean, for those people, it's hard to hear a message of me saying, well, you know, you got to step away from the court, get away from the court. And you're like, how can I get away from the court? You know, I mean, they're throwing me out of my house. But we have, if you're in that situation, realize that if you lose your house, you haven't lost. You haven't lost the battle. You haven't lost the war. We're not dealing with. You've got to understand that we're dealing with something much bigger here in the house. I know the house is the biggest thing to people. It's your home, your family, but there's something bigger than that, and that's your estate. And that's much greater value than your house is. And you'll get your house back, and you'll get everything back. So don't think that losing your house is the end of it, because it's not. That I can promise.
So you're saying your estate is the bigger picture, is much. What would you say? What is the estate that you're talking about? Someone's estate.
Well, your estate is it's your well, you know, all these public trusts out there, all these annuities out there. It's your inheritance. It's your father's estate. It's your value that you're going to pass on to your heirs and beneficiaries, your children, that these cretins have stolen from us. And I know a lot of people don't. I know I didn't think about these things when I built this place up here. I didn't think about those things. I wasn't thinking about my legacy. You know, I was young. I'm still young. I'm only 53. You know, but you know, those are things I didn't think about at the time. You know, but these are the things that they're going after, and what they're doing is, you got to understand. You have picture that you got a box here. Okay, this box has all your. This is your inheritance. Okay, this is all your value is in this box. You know, all your annuities and everything, all the things, insurances that we talk about, and not the insurances that we're talking about that you get life insurance. We're talking about much greater value here, and these are the annuities and the value that's being grown on the value of your name. And so what they've done here, they set up a scheme where they have portrayed a veil of ordinary course business practices. In other words, a mortgage loan. So you're signing documents for a mortgage loan, and you're going to pay this loan back, and if you default, then you get thrown in your house. What they actually did, though, is they turned it back as a lease agreement. So this whole idea of the American dream and dream of home ownership is a crock of shit. Pardon my French. It's just not true. They turned us all into tenants, and they leased back the property to us. So, okay, if you have a lease, where's the money going? Where's it going? It's not going down. It's not going to pay down a mortgage. I mean, part of it is, but where's the rest of the money going? And what they're doing is they're redirecting all these monies into high growth and high yield annuity funds, insurances. Okay, that go to your life, your estate, your life insurance, your life settled living estate. And so what they're doing is they're packing these accounts, trusts, LLCs, businesses, so on and so forth, and they're packing great value in these things. But they can't get that out of there until they get the person that's in the home, the homeowner, the person that belongs to that home, until they get that person to abandon their property, which means foreclosing upon them, and means an eviction, and then filing paperwork behind these people's backs, using our wonderful legal system, which we'll just call codes and statutes, which will just say business models, to force an abandonment of the estate. So what's happening here is people are getting thrown out of their houses, and these guys are getting the keys to the lock boxes that are opening up all these annuities and releasing these millions of dollars to these sons of bitches, and you're not released. If they successfully throw you out of your house and evict you, they still have that control over your name. You know, and it's worse now because now that they've taken everything away from you, you've got nothing, right? Your character's been defamed. Your credibility's certainly been shot. You're homeless in some cases. You're on public benefits now, and you got these bar attorneys that are filing against people saying that they're mental incompetence, and they're coming in and taking people's kids away. So the reason why they're doing that, the reason they're doing that is because that estate that they have control over that's value. That's value to them. They can raid that sucker, and that's exactly what they're doing. And so what we've got to realize is we got to come to the realization that, hey, we're very valuable. We're extremely valuable. And it's not because we were born in this country, and it's not because of the birth certificate. You know, to sit there and to say that by virtue of that birth certificate, you're owed something is really the wrong way to look at this. It really is. I mean, you've got to, why you owed something. You're owed something because because we operate in a system of credit. And because we're not operating a gold standard, and there's certainly no lawful money. How are we operating? We're operating in credit. Okay, well, who do you think, you know, and these are things that I used to think of. When I used to think of here private equity, you know, I think of all these, you know, wealthy guys, these you know, hotshot entrepreneurs and these, you know, these wealthy developers or whomever. No, it's us. The pools that they're putting together to get the monies that they need to build these hospitals or stadiums or roads or whatever, that money that they're getting, the bonds that they're getting to build those things, it's not their money. It's our credit that builds those things. It's our value. It's our name. And it's real important to understand that we operate in a system now that anytime you sign anytime you put your signature on a piece of paper, it's like throwing it into a hat, and it's somebody else's hat, and a bunch of other people doing the same damn thing, right? And then somebody picking up that hat and then taking it and securitizing it, and they're cleaning up on all the monies. Well, wait a second here. If you're using my name to grow your business, or you're using my name to grow wealth and annuities, I'm the one that's taking the risk. It's my name that you're using, trespassing upon. Where's my credits? Where's my due for allowing you or for you stealing the use of my credit? And that's exactly what we're dealing with here. So what we've done is we've given them our name and our signature, which they have graciously put into patents, and taken all the value from us by taking us off books and setting up us up as debtors. None of us are debtors. We're not.
So we are the credit line for this nation? Or we're like unlimited credit, right? We are the ones who give the consent to release our unlimited credit line to fund the system, and they're just taking that, securitizing.
Yeah, that's basically, it's basically true. But I think we got to kind of mature a little bit. I think we need to mature a little bit and kind of grow into what we're really dealing with here. I mean, to say what you just said is kind of a blanket statement. Okay, to sit there, it really is. I mean. If you say it to most people out in the street, they're going to just think you're nuts, right? If you start talking about birth certificate, they're going to think you're nuts, right? But if you talk about it from the perspective of actual facts and truths, like I'm talking about here, we can lay down the facts. Like, wait a second here. Here's this patent from Merrill Lynch. Here's patents. All these patents. These are all business models. Okay, these are the business models that these are functioning on. Whether it's an annuity, whether it's a bond. Whether it's a foreclosure, even, it's all being driven by my name. Okay, so that being the case, I'm the one that's putting the value into all of these things. It's my name that I'm lending to them, or they've stole from me to grow value from, that they're pocketing that value. So yes, I do have an unlimited credit line. Why? Because I've been basically floated through. Let's just pick a number. This is what Ann and I had come up with when I was up in Alaska last time. She had come up with a number roughly of like 47,000 patents since like 1998, and that's just a rough guesstimate. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't think it's that high. I think it's something less than that, but it's up there. It's up there in the tens of thousands. We're floated through almost every one of those. Well, if you think about that, that's a lot of damn money. It's a lot of damn credits. So yes, going back to what you're saying, yes, we have an unlimited credit line in that sense. Okay. But now you're dealing with the banking system and how the banking system operates. And of course, there's no law for money. There's coin. And so we operate in a system of credit. And so when we're dealing with these issues, and we're dealing with the evil corporate government, we've got to be careful what we're doing here. We've got to step back and analyze and look at what we're doing, what our goals are here. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's not our name." Give it back to them. It's a fiction. It's a strong name. Give it back to them. I don't want it. I don't want that. Give it back to them. Leave us alone. Why would you want to give it back? It's your, whether you like it or not. This is what kind of drives me nuts about some people. Some people have this attitude that just give everything back. I don't want to be part of this government. I don't want to be a part of anything. Well, you drive a car, you enjoy your cell phone. Most people do. These are all the conveniences that we have here. Okay. So we're participating in a system of commerce here that we don't understand, that we need to come to grips and understand. And if we like that, and I saw a Carl Lentz piece once. I don't know if you've ever seen Carl Lentz before. He's more crude than I am at times. But he was saying, I like the conveniences of life. I like my fucking cell phone. I like these things. Well, so do I. We're participating in society. And if that's the case, then we've got to answer what our role is in society. Okay, we are not consumers. Okay, the consumer was killed off in 2001 when the OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, deregulated the entire banking system and preempted any kind of consumer protection. So they basically threw out all law, and they rolled everything back to the National Banking Act of 1863, which we'll go into later. But what they did, though, they gave all of our freedoms, right, all of our rights to the banks. And then they closed the door and said, we're not going to bother them. Let the banks do what they're going to do. You can't go near them. So they isolated us. So they left us standing naked. Okay. So the idea of TILA or RESPA or any of these kind of consumer protections, it's gone. It was gone. So what they did was they picked us up as the commodity chips, cattle, if you will, and have exploited us through patented processes, which is one of the things that owners of patents get to do. A second thing is they get to exclude people from using those patents. Well, excuse me. They masterfully did this through the Fannie and Freddie document, the mortgage loan, and then the underlying hidden MERS Nations Bank agreement. So what they did is they gave us the impression of a mortgage loan, right, and a UCC-3 negotiable instrument, a promissory note. But we didn't know that when we were signing those documents, we're actually given all rights, license, and title of our name and our identity over to the banks and over to these agents and third-party entities, servicers, and our attorneys. And so what they did is they brilliantly overlaid it to where they exploited us in the patents, which they have a right to do, and then they excluded us from any of the benefits of the patent by virtue of hiding that MERS Nations Bank agreement. So it's beautifully done. I mean, you got to give them credit there. It's absolute brilliance what they've done.
Yeah. So they took our estates in that sense?
Yes.
At that time, they took our estates?
They took our inheritance. Is what they did. That's what they did. See, we have a UCC 9. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a very wonderful thing. It doesn't look too wonderful right now, but it really is a wonderful thing because in the rewriting of UCC, which is Uniform Commercial Code, Section 9, they rewrote and redefined secure transactions and updated, the whole securitization, rehypothecation, fractionalization, created all kinds of new categories for proceeds and insurances. So they expanded all this stuff. But what they cleverly did was they kind of pushed to the back as kind of like a footnote what the main driving force of UCC 9 functions on, which is intellectual properties, patents, copyrights, and trademarks. So what they were able to do now was they were able to take our person, our entity, if you will, and slice us into 1,000 different slices and sell us to all corners of the world. And they weren't able to do that before. They didn't have that capacity to be able to do that. Now they were doing that in some capacity, but nothing like they are now. So that's a beautiful.
And this was at 2001. This happened.
Yeah, this was 2001. This was the most important legal things, or the most important points that for me on these things is the 1998 State Street versus Signature Financial Group, which was the ruling that allowed these business processes to be patented. And then in 2001, in that same year, was the recording of the MERS Nations Bank Agreement underneath the MERS trademark, which was all intentionally concealed. And then jump forward to 2001, we had three incidences in 2001. First with the George Bush attacks on the World Trade Center and the implosions, and then when we were we were shocked, and we were stunned and shocked by that, and then somewhere between being stunned and shocked and then looking out and then gazing over towards high level patriotism, gazing over to Afghanistan for retribution, they slide in the revisions to UCC 9, and then in comes the OCC and deregulates everything. So all these things happened in 2001. Where
the real terrorism was happening. They just put that,
I wrote, yes, you're right. I wrote that in one of my affidavits. I wrote that, my friend Liz is going through and she's editing it for me because I tend to write very long run-on sentences. So she's kind of editing it for me. She goes, Ken, you can't put that in there. Because one of the statements I put in there was that the buildings came down in 2001, but really what happened was the United States was sold in 2001 without even a shot, without a shot ever being fired. But some would say that 3 buildings came down as a result of that. But she goes, you can't say that. And I said, well, I know I can't, but I did make a statement, just like you said. The real terrorists have already been here. And the real terrorists are Wall Street bankers, and real terrorists are the bar attorneys. Now, I'm not saying all bar attorneys.
Yeah, not all of them are in the knowing of what's actually going on at the root.
No. I mean that's and I generalize a lot when I say bar attorneys, and I know a couple of very good attorneys that are on the criminal side, and great attorneys. They don't know anything about these things. A lot of these foreclosure mill attorneys, they're wet behind the ears. They're fresh out of college. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. They don't know about this stuff. But who knows about it? It's the patent attorneys. It's the attorneys that are the high dollar patent attorneys that are representing the banks that install these systems and engineer these systems. They're the ones that are in the know, and everything else from there just trickles down, and people become a part of this fraud without even realizing it. By getting an award because they took a child out of suspected a bad household, that in fact wasn't bad, so they threw this award system in to award officers, and sheriffs would come and throw us out of our houses because they see us as deadbeats, liars, and cheats, So there's a lot of victims here. I mean, it's not the people that are actually in the know on these things. It's brilliant because it's silent, because it operates seamlessly. Technology. You look at a screen. I'm looking at you right now on this screen. I look at this phone. I think, hey, this is great, wonderful. And in the past, I would never think about what's inside my phone. But, there's a lot of things inside my phone, and a lot of people listening inside my phone. And these are things and a lot of security things in there that we don't think about. I would take that for granted. It's the same thing with, county employees or state employees. They sit down at their terminal every morning and they just turn on their computer and they do their stuff. So there's a lot of people here that have been taken on board that don't have a clue what's going on. And what's nice about what we're talking about here is that, yes, it's difficult to understand, but it can't be denied. Okay, it's not something we're talking about birth certificates or Illuminati or any of these wild ass things that, whether true or not, or as true as they may be,
it's still fear porn. It's still not getting to the truth. It's still like some cover of fear. So you get programmed to go into your fear and don't look deeper.
It turns a lot of people off too. I mean, if you're fighting the foreclosure issues and fighting all these issues, we're in a separate world from my neighbor. My neighbor's they haven't been touched by these things, so they don't understand any of this stuff. So yes, if you're gonna start talking about birth certificates and Illuminati, you're gonna lose them real quick. They're gonna drop off real quick. But if dog's barking. Sorry.
The dog agrees.
Huh?
Your dog agrees with what you're saying. Dog agrees.
Yeah, I think my daughter's home. That's why, or in a boyfriend. That's why they brought barking. She always barks at him. Where was I?
Yeah, if you talk about like Illuminati or just bring up those topics to neighbors, it'll just turn on.
Right, exactly. Now, if I go over to my neighbor's house and I go over there with the Fannie and Freddie document that I signed, that they signed too, and I sit down with them, I say, hey, but you didn't know what this thing was, and they're going to say, what's this? And, well, you see, when you sign this document here, you didn't know, and this was supposed to be a protected document. This is supposed to be four corners. It's supposed to be nothing outside this thing, but you didn't know that you signed this document too. And let me show you what it does here. It says that you gave all license and title to your name away to them. And they're going to say, well, let me tell you what it means. When they go to a patent, so you can start laying these things out in a coherent manner that's going to touch them, because all of a sudden nobody's doing really, really good in these times. I mean, there's people with college degrees that can't find jobs. There's people that have jobs are not getting raises. They're getting cut. High cost insurances. And so nobody's really, really doing really, really well. So when you can sit down with somebody who's not in this stuff and have a 20-minute, maybe a half-hour conversation with them, and then walk away and they're scratching your head thinking about this thing, that's success. And it is success, and that's what that's what we need to spread here. Is we need to spread the gift of knowledge, actually, and it is it's a gift. I mean, it's a gift because these are things that were intentionally concealed from us. That's why
when you bring it up, you're just opening the door, even if they're not able to look through it or walk through it. You at least have a door open, and they're not just shut to something that's just totally in their unawareness. You're at least opening a door so they can start to open to their awareness to these new things that are real.
Right. You start making them think. Now, insofar as the people that are in the county or at these agencies, I've had FBI agents, as a matter of fact. I've had conversations about the Merged Nations Bank Agreement, and what you've done now is you've got them thinking and saying, "Wow, if this is happening to you." And this is happening to me too. Yes, it is. It's happening to everybody. So me, you see me as a deadbeat. Well, I'm not a deadbeat because of these things I just explained to you, and they're going to start thinking about these things. And that's a good thing to start spreading. So now we're starting to spread some, at least the idea of asking questions and thinking about some things. But if you come at this from the Illuminati point of view and
that just reinforces the. Yeah, that's why that stuff is created like that, and so that all these trigger words come up in conversation, and then people are triggered to just shut their doors to it. And it's all that Illuminati stuff and that setup is about creating some unsovereign reality where the reality is creating for you, because you're just closing all your awareness to look at what's there in that space that you're exchanging energy with. And actually realize that you're the source.
Well, you also got people when you talk about Illuminati, they just don't want to go there because they think you're nuts. Number one, or number two, it's too big for them. There's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing I'm going to do about it. There's nothing I'm going to do to bring down the Illuminati. And there's nothing that I can't do or you can't do that you can do that's going to bring it down. What's going to bring it down is getting down to the brass tack facts and truths. And which was what I'm talking about, and getting into these things and exercising our due diligence. That's what's going to bring these guys down, because that's what's going to isolate these guys. Because once we start exercising remedies, what are we doing? We're pulling away the bar attorneys who are running these things. We're pulling their ticket away from them, and they're going to be standing there naked. And at some point in time, people are going to start looking around and saying, wait a second here, something's really, really wrong here. And that's what's going to happen, because now also, too, people that are in revenue streams that are judges or state officials or county officials or even federal officials, these people are going to get afraid now, because they're going to be like, oh, shit, I'm going to either get out of the way or I'm going to get nailed for fraud or I'm going to get caught up in this thing. So by us the way I look at it, by us just conducting our due diligence and becoming educated, just doing those things is going to expose this system. The works of Anonymous and all these groups, I mean, you know, I used to agree with all those things and I used to follow those things, but I look at it now, I think those things are pointless. It's animosity. It breeds hatred, and it doesn't.
Yeah, and
it gets no results.
They'll start relying on this other organization rather than going right back to the driver's seat of where it's important, where it's your individual self learning this stuff, and not saying, oh, look, another anonymous post says this.
You're exchanging one indoctrination for another, essentially. That's where I look at it.
Exactly. Yeah, same thing.
You know, and that's I think that's what's hard for me to understand is, you know, and it's not that I can get pretty I can get pretty rude at times. I get pretty rude at times and get down on people a lot of times about that they're wrong. And some people said I'm arrogant or I'm cocky. I'm not arrogant or cocky. I'm right. I'm confident because I got all the facts here. And what bothers me now is that we have all these people that supposedly, well, they're very knowledgeable. We respect them for what they talk about and their views and legal views and all these deep-seated legal arguments to the straw man and, you know, living man and birth and all those things. And we respect these people and we put our faith in these people that what they're talking about is correct, and we're following these people, but we're not stopping and saying, wait a second, are they right? We're not fact checking them. You know,
yeah. They may be right about this and this and this. This one I'm not sure about, but they've been right about that and that and that. So I'll just go with it, and we stop doing our own work that we need.
Right. So the very thing that we think is helping us is actually shooting us in the foot. And I'm not saying that to be mean to these people or to put these people down at all, because they're very knowledgeable. All I'm saying is that they have to, at some point in time, they just stopped. They stopped. They didn't. They look around and say, they look under the hood and say, wait a minute, what else is going on here? And what's going on here is all these intellectual properties, and this is a huge thing. And this is the driver of all this stuff. You know.
So you said the intellectual properties are the driver of this thing?
Yep, it's all intellectual properties. Everything. It's all patents, copyrights, and trademarks. Patents are your these business models, which are could be anything from a wealth gain, you know, annuity, to a foreclosure patent, to codes and statutes that are all automated and all linked together to operate seamlessly. That's your matrix. It's your matrix. And so you got your copyright that writes the code. You got your patents that write the process, off of which spins trademark goods. That's what's driving this thing, and that's exactly what we're dealing with. We're dealing with our common law copyright, unregistered name, right? And I say unregistered because it's not registered with the Copyright Office. It could be registered all over other agencies, you know, Department of Health and Human Services, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make it a registered copyright. It's an unregistered, protected copyright that the federal government has proprietary ownership over. Now, what does that mean? That means that because we are United States, you know, citizens and supposedly constitutional protections, and because we are entitled as United States citizens to public benefits, right? Certain so-called perks, which really aren't perks, but, you know, they make us believe it's social security and so forth.
Yeah, privileges.
Yes, privileges.
Not,
so
and
they
some
have,
rights.
They have a right. So, but they have so that's the protective part of our copyright. Now they have proprietary ownership over it because they're keeping the records of it. It's IRS, it's the county, it's Department of Health and Human Services. So they're keeping all the records for us. Well, wait a second. They're doing that because they have proprietary ownership, because we haven't come forward and say, I can keep track of my own records. I don't need you to keep track of my records. I'll keep track of my records. Okay. So that's your copyright. Now your name is also your trade name. It's also an unregistered trademark. So everything that we're dealing with here is private, unregistered intellectual properties that they've exploited. It's all verbatim, 1790 Copyright Act, 2 pages, statutes at large, defines it all. It's a sus decay. And, you know, a lot of these constitutionalists, they miss these things. You know, they went out like the Bundys. I mean, I know Ammon. I've spoken with Ammon. I've been down there visiting with him and all these things. And I like Ammon very much, but I don't agree with their views going against the federal government, because they don't have to go against the federal government. You don't want to rail against the federal government. We want to embrace the federal government. Not all federal government's crooked. Okay. And if they would have taken into account the 1790 Copyright Act, they would embrace that, know that if they take that into Treasury, that's where they get their rights. That's what puts them back onto the land. And that is, outside of DOJ, is the only place that entertains common law anymore. And Treasury is all about common law. And that's what we've got to do. We got to get out of the court system. We got to get out of the state system. We got to present our asses, primary language, in Treasury as the natural. I'm a natural person who is living, and this all caps name here is not an all caps name. It's a capitalized entity that is attached to me, that has concrete attached to me, and it's been separated and all these lines of business. And I'm here to report that I have my constitutional rights been violated as a living man. And I want to close all, I want to audit, I want to close all my lines of business, and I want to take them all under. I want to go into assured copyright with Treasury so that I'm protected. And then we go on, we live our lives from there. It's not that complicated in that sense. We don't have to do all this case law, all these other things. It's very simple. You know, I read a very interesting article that, you know, I was always canon law and the Vatican, you know, that's always bothered me. But I read a very interesting legal piece written back in 1950s, I think it was, that was talking about, that wrote about natural law and canon law. And I understand it was the first paper that I actually understood what they're saying in that paper and what the correlations are. And what I took away from that was that canon law and natural law is not written; it's unwritten law, right? But it's supposed to run parallel with canon law. Okay. Now, when canon law does not fulfill common sense remedies, you know, like in other words, you know, getting your house taken away on a mortgage that's not a mortgage. You could show it's not a mortgage. So it's canon law is broken down. It's broken at that point in time. And because it's broken at that point in time, it violates natural law, because it violates common law too. You stole my pig, damn it. You're not giving it back. Yeah. You know, yeah. So it violates natural law. If it violates natural law, then all canon law is void. It's all void. True. So there is no canon law. And there is no canon law anyhow, because you can, and it's a very viable argument. OCC threw it all out. It's all business models. So that's what we're operating in. So when you get down to this, when you get down to this brass tacks, yes, we live in a society that functions on commerce. It functions on UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. And the Uniform Commercial Code presumes that we are all merchants and that we understand that we're merchants. Okay, now a lot of people say, well, you know, bitch and moan about, well, you know, I used to be the same way. So, you know, bitch, moan, complain about, but at the end of the day, though, you've got to be realistic about what you're dealing with here. We live in a society. Yeah.
If you're buying food from somebody, right. If you're buying anything, light from something else, you're not making your own power, then you're a merchant. You're dealing in, right, as being a merchant.
Exactly. So, I mean, you know, you can bitch about it all you want, but you got to accept it. If you don't accept it, go live in the woods, you know, but you have to accept it. Okay, fine. I accept the fact that I'm supposed to be a merchant. Okay, if I'm going to be a merchant, I'm going to be a damn good merchant. And so this is really what we're dealing with here. And what we're dealing with here is we've got to, the way I see it, is we've got to accept the fact that, okay, we are merchants. We're not consumers. We are our own corporate entity. Accept that we're our own corporate entity. I'll talk about that in a second. But accept these things and do what we should be doing as expected as far as being good merchants and for our family and for ourselves. You know, to sit there and say that the government's all crooked and evil, and you know, it is, okay. But to sit there and say, give it all back, I don't want any of this. That's just it's nonsense. You know, step outside of yourself and look at this stuff. This is beautiful information here. I mean, this is beautiful here. We've got a beautiful system that they put in place that unfortunately they have successfully kept us away from having knowledge of it. And they've done it by, multi-layers of fraud. But at the end of the day, what are we looking at here? We're looking at insurances, we're looking at foreclosures, we're looking at bonds, we're looking at what are all these things? It's all lines of business. That's all it is. That's all it is.
And we're the merchant of our dealings with all of them. We are the guy who
we're the accommodating party under the Commonwealth. But we're actually a transmitting utility. But because we haven't taken charge of our minor children, of our all caps name, of our fiction. That fiction is very important. That fiction, you can't do away with that fiction. That's another thing I learned about a difference between natural law, or the correlation between natural law and canon law, is that what they're talking about. They're talking about the living man, and they're talking about this fictional entity out there. Okay, they're not separate from one another. It's concretely attached to you. Why? Because that legal fiction, that's your public personality. Okay, so you can't. It's like a ball and chain. You can't kick it free from yourself, because otherwise you won't exist. Nobody will take notice of you. You won't be. Poof. If you don't have any kind of public personality, nobody knows who you are. You don't exist. Okay, so
it's like you it's like the you that is in society with everyone else, along with you who's the real person.
It's your character. It's your credibility. That's what it is. And so what they've done here is they have taken our name, and they have taken it into their private, to where they've profited from it, and they've come back on us and have besmirched our name, tarnished our character, and destroyed our credibility. So these are the things we've got. So that legal fiction is very, very important. It needs to be restored. Okay, it's a concrete attachment to us, and that's one word that I love when I came across that word too, because concrete attachment is very important. It's one of the fundamental rules and requirement for something to be patented. It must produce a concrete and tangible result. That's what the court ruled back in 1998 when they said that was the basis of their ruling, was that this business process produced a concrete and tangible result. I think it's nonsense then. I don't now, but just looking at it, just as a statement, it's kind of nonsensical to think, well, a computer program produces that. Well, the court said that it did this because the results that this algorithmic process put into the hands of brokers was the concrete, tangible result that they could take to their investors and guide them on, advise them on investments. But really, what it is, that is a concrete attachment to our living man, living woman. It's how people look at us. It's how people judge us. It's how people, whether they judge us as a deadbeat, or whether they judge us with credibility, or with, it's very important. You can't do away with this. So we can't just give it back to them, and you can't say it's theirs. No, it's yours.
So so the mind would be a concrete attachment to your physical body.
Well,
like
no, not your mind, but your actions that you go through in life.
Okay.
In other words, if in fact I can pursue my own, if in fact I'm free, and I can pursue my own happiness, okay, and I have government there to protect me from all enemies, foreign and domestic, meaning that I can, if I want to sit on my ass, do nothing with my life, I can do that, right? But if I want to go out and do something with my life, I can do that. I can actually achieve it if I work hard enough, right? Now, if I make a mistake along the way, if I buy too big of a house, or if I do some stupid financial purchase or something dumb, which we all do when we're young, right? I rightfully should have to pay for that, or pay the consequences for that. That's one thing. But when somebody comes in and deliberately destroys my credit, that's a whole other thing now. Now somebody's taken my credibility, my character, and has destroyed that in the way that I'm looked at now by the public. I'm looked at as a default, as a deadbeat, or a person of less character, when in fact that's not really true, is it? What's true about it is somebody set me up for that. Somebody set me up and somebody destroyed my credit. Okay, that's what I'm talking about with the concrete attachment. And how it's our character, it's our public character, and how people see us. Now, I'm I've got good character, you've got good character, but if I go down to the court or something, they're going to think I'm a deadbeat, right? Yeah, he's deadbeat defaulted. Okay, well, that's not really true, though, is it? The reason why that occurred was because of these fixed processes that set us up to damage our character and our credibility. And that's what I'm talking about and they're doing that, of course, through our name, right? And how have they done that? They've done that because they've taken all of the assets, if you will, the proceeds, the insurances, the credits, all that. They've taken it into their private. And what have they left? All they've left out here is bonds and showing us as a debtor. Well, that's not really true, though, is it?
Not at all. Nope.
So does that make sense? I mean,
if we knew, if we knew exactly what was going on, then we could be doing the things that they did to our name. We could be doing it to our own name and actually become an aware merchant instead of just someone who didn't know that they were a merchant in society.
That's right. That's right. And see, when we have control of our own name, when we control the records, and we control what's being signed on documents, and have repudiation power, then we have control over our lives. We have control of our own character and our own credibility. But when you lose that, what happens? And this is what their goal is. Their goal is to take our estate from us, bankrupt us, make us look like we're financially incapacitated, incompetent, legally dead, mentally incompetent, drunk, alcoholic, dumbass, incompetent, warded estate. How do you emerge from that? You can't emerge from that because you've got this so-called legal system, which is these business models that are keeping us down. Well, that's our name. Reality, we've got a great value to our name. So what we've got to do is we've got to pull back our name, pull back all the assets, strip down that veil that separates the ledgers, and put us back together as a whole person. Again, restore our credibility, our character, and at that point in time, that's when it comes into are you going to be this is where Babylon comes in. Society functions, okay. It's who controls it, and whoever controls it in their little corner of their world. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to be a prick about it? Are you going to be evil about it? Are you going to hurt people with it, or are you going to do good with it? That's what, in my opinion, that's what things change. Is when you remove the powers of evil that are controlling these mechanisms, and then the true test comes in when I step in, and you step in, and other people step in. Then we see what happens there. That's the truth. That, to me, that's what the Bible's all about. That's what God's all about. It's like, when you have that power, and it is power, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to do good with it? Or are you going to do bad with it? That's the true test. And we haven't tested that yet because we haven't started moving these sons of bitches yet. And that's where we're at.
So what would you say is the process for taking the first step into taking our name back or making claim to our estate? What would be the process of doing that? Would this be through paperwork, or what are you actually speaking about?
There's a lot. These are the processes that I'm kind of narrowing down right now. But the one process that one thing we need to talk about that we haven't mentioned yet is digital signatures, electronic signatures. The reason why they're getting away with what they're getting away with, the reason why they ignore us and still foreclose upon us, is because they're holding us to non-repudiation of a signature way back when. That they converted to electronic signature under e-sign, which takes away our repudiation power. So they got control over this digital signature. Now, these signatures are no different. These signatures spur certificates. Okay, these same kind of certificates that are on your computer. It is the security of your identity, and it is the security of allowing transactions to go through, to allowing access to information in this electronic system. So in other words, if I call up the IRS as my blindly right now without doing any of this stuff, the IRS is basically going to tell me that I'm frivolous. They're going to tell me that they're probably going to treat me like basically treat me like an nincompoop, actually, not going to give me any information. And the reason for that is because we've got each one of these agencies operates in different levels of protocol on information and who has access to that information. Okay, what we have in place between our living man, our natural person who's living, and our natural person, the entity, organization, is this hidden bar between, and that's the bar attorneys and others that are controlling that. Okay, and they're the ones that are diverting all these monies and proceeds and accounts into their accounts, and then diverting all the crap to us. So they got control over us right now. Nothing we can do right now by paper is going to change that. Now, it can be argued that yes, you can go ahead and file affidavits and file all these things in the court or into the county and the UCC like filings and everything.
Like declaration of status of being a living man, or all these paperwork.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And some people have had limited success with it, and then everybody jumps on board and then says, "Okay, this is what we got to do." What people don't understand is, and then people don't understand why they're getting thrown in jail or why it's not working for them. There's a reason why it doesn't. Those are very subjective. Treasury looks at each one of those situations individually. So even if you do the same damn thing that Ted Smith doesn't mean you're going to get the same thing, because they're going to look at those situations independently. And also, too, we're also dealing with a phased-out system of paper. They don't deal with paper anymore. Treasury doesn't deal with paper anymore. Treasury won't accept paper bonds anymore. Everything's electronic. So what we have to do here, we're not in the record. I mean, we are in the electronic record, but we don't have access to that electronic record. Why? Because there's a little private key. You know, it's a public key and a private key. We were not given the private key. Department of the Navy, they're the ones that engineered the cryptographic public-private electronic digital signatures. And I dare say, I'll say it, they basically got hacked. The banks came and basically hacked that whole damn thing so that they could take possession of the private key, and that's exactly what they're doing. When they convert our paper signature into an electronic digital key, we're not getting that digital key, which we should, because we're the creditor, right? We're the principal. They're keeping that key. So the first step in taking back our identity is to start acquiring our digital keys. On my blog, I put out documents for Treasury, federal digital PKI.
Oh wow!
A lot of documents.
One sec. The audio started cutting out. The audio just started cutting out or something, so I don't want it to be messed up on the recording. You said the first step is getting your digital key.
We have to start. We have to become born again. And I said the word born again because in Oregon, it's actually a definition in Oregon law of born again. So we have to become born again into the digital record. So what we have to do, well, how do you do that? Okay, well, Treasury, Treasury, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, right? Department of Homeland Security, Secretary of State, United States Patent and Trademarks Office. All of these agencies have digital PKI keys that we can obtain. Okay, and what happens is when we obtain these keys. Now I put the paperwork out on this on my blog. Okay, and people are like, "Oh my God, this is confusing." Well, I'm working through the details on it and really whittling it down. So I'll have a lot more on that in the next couple of days. It's not as difficult as people think it may be. But what we got to do, though, is we got to take advantage of these programs because what Treasury is offering us, they're offering us it's what everybody wants. Everybody's clamoring for self-government, right? Treasury is saying, here, you want to be self-governed? Set up a trust, essentially, that's around this, that you're surrounding with these digital keys, and you can be self-governing You can set up your own structure underneath it to where you're an independent contractor of the United States, which is the same thing as saying you're a foreign national, essentially. Take control of your identity and take control of your accounts. Because what happens now is we're starting to shut off the banks. Because the banks have control of our signatures. The bar attorneys have control of our signatures. We don't have control of our identity. We have to take control of our identity. So when we start making those steps, we start making the steps to Treasury, that all trickles down to the local authorities and state authorities that we're obtaining our keys. Once we obtain our keys, we shut them out because it's a living man or woman that's signing those documents. It's just like forming a corporation. Corporation may be a fiction, but the person that formed that corporation and signed off in that corporation was a living person, right? So it's the same thing here. So it's a confirmation of that you're the living person moving forward. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Oh, I was speaking while I was on mute. Oops. Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's like you're taking back the actual creation that may be a fiction, but I mean, we're talking about a real thing. You're actually taking it back by you, the creator, taking claim to that creation by doing this. So you would get the are they codes online that you would receive?
There's a whole series of things. I would suggest.
Yeah. What is your blog? What is your blog where you speak about this?
It's Dost Affixtications, DOST. I'll post it. I'll just post it on Facebook, or I'll send you the link.
Okay, and then I'll put it on the description for this for any viewers in the future.
Yeah. Okay, good. And just Dost Affixtications kind of sounds weird, but so just to give a brief understanding why I named it that was because they're taking our name to goods and this under a system of trade, trade practices. You fix my name, and sophistication. So I can understand fix my name for good products and in the face.
I'm sorry. For some reason, the whole what you just said was totally screwed up. I think on the audio recording it'll actually be screwed up. I just heard just the audio totally went out. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
If you'd like to just repeat that, try that again. I don't know if there's something messing with it or what.
I'll just send a blog catch that later. I'll do a little word piece of that as the name of it. But let's go back to digital signatures, though. These digital signatures are very important. And if you go into, and this is what I've discovered, when I'm going into the remedy is everywhere. That's what people realize. You know, we sit there and think that we have no remedy, that we're fighting up against a wall. And the only reason why we're fighting up against the wall is because that's what we've been made to believe that we have to do. You know, these bar attorneys, they say very clearly within these trademark documents that you and I quote, exist for the pleasures and profits of legal representatives, their subsidiaries and affiliates. So what are we doing? When we fight them in court or we entertain them on their legal bullshit, we're being their puppets. We're performing for them as performing monkeys, you know, and they kept us focused to that, you know. But if we step out of that and we look at these agencies and start looking at stuff that's on my blog and my page, and you start understanding these things, yes, it's going to take a little while. It's going to take a little bit of effort, you know. No matter what I say, I can talk blue in the face. But until somebody actually does this stuff themselves and starts putting their own mind to and time to it, they're not going to get anything. You've got to dive into this because this is something that is new to all of us. Okay, so it's something you have to experience as well as, you know, it's practice. When you want to start understanding these things, you understand that, okay, this is all about copyright, the proprietary ownership over our name that we're just taking back. We're just taking back records. I can take care of my records now. I don't need you to keep my records anymore. I can keep my records. Okay. Now, by the very nature of applying for these digital keys, what we're doing is we're removing the barriers that are preventing us from getting information that we can't get right now. Why? Because we got that hidden bar between us by some, you know, behind the scenes, some attorneys coming in and taking legal guardianship of our estate that we don't know about, right? So now we're removing all those things. Okay, we start removing all those things, then we start getting an actual record of everything that we're about out there. And the beauty of this is, you know, people want to get these securitization audits. We don't have to get securitization audits. The very fact that we apply for keys, one, says that we're not incompetent, that we are actually competent, and we're becoming sophisticated, and we are coming with knowledge. So we are, you know, we're emerging from our incompetence and our ignorance, right? But also, it is incumbent, and this is a key word, incumbent upon Treasury to act on rooting out these evils and rooting out the persons that have been stepping on our name and profiting from our name by performing a mandatory audit. So now we start finding out who's been attached to our name. Okay, so this is very important things. These are all the things that we want to do for ourselves that people are trying to do by other methods right now. It's the same old game. It's just, you know, a different process now. And so what we're doing now is when we talk about sovereignty, and you got balls putting out sovereignty there, because a lot of people, you know, that unfortunately you've had these people calling themselves sovereign citizens and that have been leaning judges and doing all this shit for the UCC1 that have, you know, makes a dirty word to say sovereignty now. You know, but we can say the word sovereignty, and we can proclaim the word sovereignty loud and clear within the digital record, because what we're doing is we are sovereign. We're sovereign over our own entities, our own minor children, our own business lines that are out there. So, you know, that's our sovereignty. We're sovereign over our own state, and that's what Treasury is offering us. They're offering the keys to those things. And so that's the first thing to do. Now, is this going to be a long process? You know, I don't think it is. I mean, I've went through a lot of things here, and there's a lot of paperwork. I'm throwing a lot of stuff out that we don't need to do anymore. You know, that's making these things easier. And what makes it even more easier is that I don't have to make the argument. I don't have to. You know, a lot of people I've read a lot of people's arguments when they're trying to get to Treasury accounts. A lot of about long dissertations about banking and all these things. You know, that the Treasury is ignored, and then somebody will come back through and they'll file a administrative claim form for, you know, trillions of dollars or whatever, and then they never get it, right? We don't have to do any of those things. You know why? Because the evidence is right before us. The evidence is all these patents. It's like, okay, well, let me tell you. Okay, Mr. IRS, you tell me then, who is this person that's being incepted into this patent whose accounts are being separated? I didn't agree to that. I never signed up for that. That's me. That's.
Aren't I the natural person that you're speaking about on that document?
Well, exactly. Yes, exactly. At the end of the day, the beneficiary of these things is the living person. It's the living man or woman. That's the beneficiary, the ultimate shareholder. Okay. So explain to me then how is this? I never signed this agreement. I never agreed to. Oh, by the way, I never agreed to this patent here. I never agreed to this patent that says that you could slice me into 20,000 different slices. There's no defense that you can give to that, because it's clearly spelled out that is your identity that is being profited from. And then at the same time, you could say, hey, they're doing the same thing to you too. You know, so these are not isolated things. This is being done to everybody, and that's a powerful thing. It's powerful. I mean, when you get down to the facts and truths of these things, it's very powerful, because there's no defense for it. You know, so what we have now is the people are getting thrown in jail for doing the things that they're doing. People say, "Oh, can I get thrown in jail for anything that I'm doing now?" No, they can't throw you in the jail for trying to clear up the record, for trying to get your name clear and try to clean up your credibility that's been destroyed, and restore your credibility that's been taken from you by all this stuff here. They can't
doing
throw
a
you in jail
real.
for doing those things.
You can't go to jail for doing an audit to try to fix things. You're not doing any harm to anyone other than just fixing your actual estate or your thing that I was calling credit
Well,
line. That they're taking.
Right. What you do. See, they can't put up that wall anymore and say, "Oh no, I'm going to deny you that." They can't do that anymore because we got too much evidence against them.
So are you going to deny this paper and this thing that I never,
right.
I didn't consent to?
And I'll tell you the reason why they won't do it either is because now if I go into Treasury here, and this is a big stack right here that I have. These are the Treasury forms. Okay. I don't think I would highly suggest people look at these forms. I'll post up some of the links on it where people talk about, well, how do I form a trust? What do I need to do to claim securities in Treasury? It's all right here. I mean, Treasury's done a beautiful job of putting out the documents, and they've done an even better job with these recent posts I've seen. They're going into great detail to really help people out. So it's really a matter of saying, hey, listen, Mr. Treasury, I was ignorant all these years, and it's not all my fault. I mean, I was, there's a lot of fraud that's been taking place that's hidden these things from me. But I understand, and I can show you that I've got all these accounts out there that attach to these Treasury bonds. That hey, they were stolen from me. I lost them because I didn't know anything about I didn't know the birth certificate was a savings bond. So they got lost. And then they've been destroyed. My credibility has been destroyed. So I know that I have all these accounts. So how do I make these conversions here? And Treasury's done a very good job at putting paperwork together to do these things. Now some people say, I'm not going to sign those papers. I'm not going to sign anything the government says. We got to get away from that shit. We've got to get away from that because not all government's bad. And this is all business methods. Okay. And it's something that people need to realize. When we sign our signature, yes, it's how we're signing our signature, all rights reserved, but it's also the fact that as it stands right now, our all caps name, our fiction name is blended and connected to us because we gave them subject matter jurisdiction, okay? Because we never said, wait a second here. There's two natural persons here. There's my living person and there's my organization, and hey, I don't want to put them together because then I got all liability. I'm a partnership, I'm a proprietorship, and I bear all liability under tax codes. So I want to put an arm's length distance in between it, right? So what do? You separate it by creating an LLC, recognizing your corporation, you separate it. So now what you have is when you recognize your corporation, what do you have? What's one thing a corporation has, which is beautiful? A treasure trove, a treasury. And that's why when people say, oh, kill corporate personhood, no, you don't want to kill corporate personhood. Corporate personhood, your corporation is your credit line. It's your
so you would be killing all of your credit. You'd be cutting off your source of credit.
You'd be divesting yourself. And you got people say, you have some people that say, well, I don't want to get involved in that. I don't want to get involved in that evil system. It's only.
Well, you already are. I mean, there already are involved.
You are right, exactly. I mean, what to sit there and say that you want to be part of the evil system, but I'm offering you the keys. I'm offering you a way to take control of that, so that you have control of your own life. If you want to be a bad person, great. If you want to be a good person, that's your decision. But to sit there and say, well, I don't want to part. That's just, to me, that's not even ignorance. That's just foolishness. We're in a good position here. We're in a very, very good position to silently, non-violently come right in and take back our accounts. And at the same time, isolate these bar attorneys and hang them out there. It's beautiful. It really is. There's nothing there's no hidden secrets here. And that's one thing that there really isn't. All the paperwork's there. I can go in any agency any agency, and I could probably point you to about 10 or 15 different links that are links to helping us. There's all kinds of information, quality of information agencies out there that know that there's fraud being committed, and they're putting out the information for people to say, hey, you want to take over your own archive, be the master of your own domain, take over your own information so you control your own information. It's your information. You know, it's being, you know, they're putting all the keys out there to help us. It's just that none of us are looking at it.
Yeah.
You know, so
Too jaded,
the government's all
too jaded to trust that there is a remedy. And you're saying, there's a lot of remedy out there, but it's time to actually look for the remedy and no longer care about all that justice and judgment of the past. Because why would you look to that unless you want it? If you want remedy, it is there, and it will come to you if you open yourself.
Yes, and it's you know, it's people say, oh, give me the forms, give me the forms. It's not as simple as just giving somebody the forms.
Due diligence.
And what you're doing, you've got see that, and that's what. And when people are saying, well, we got to form a trust, we got to do this, we got to do that. I'm taking a different approach to that, and the approach I'm taking, I'm being pragmatic and I'm being competent. You know, because that's what Treasury is about. Treasury is about credibility, right? What's your credibility? And of course, the credit, right? So two different kinds of credits. I don't know what I've got out there. I know I've got lots of lines of business out there. Okay, I mean, I know I've got them all over the place. I get stacks this high. I could show where they're at, right? But for me to sit there and say, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and form a trust now. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that before I go in Treasury is kind of nonsensical. I mean, the better approach I believe is to go into Treasury and saying, listen, I know what's going on now. Here's what I know. Okay, here's what I understand. Here's where I would like to go with these things. But I need to. I don't know where I'm at yet. I need to get my footing. I need to have an audit. I need to see see what I have out there, so then I can confidently act in due diligence. And I think those are the things that we need to do. Those are the things that Treasury will expect. And it does give us respect because now we're acting competently. You know, this Heather Tucci. You know, when she came on board and everybody started jumping on board with their ACH numbers and Fed Reserve, I just Let's all
board the bandwagon of, you know, join this crap. Don't take care of your own estate.
And people didn't think it's like, this is credibility. You know, you don't just, and the Treasury looks at that. So these people are black marked. Now, not that that's going to prevent them from doing anything, but it just shows a level of incompetence that's like, wait a minute, I understand the desperation, but you know, think before you do stuff. And people didn't think. They just took the word of somebody else.
Take another incompetency bandwagon. Let's jump on this incompetency bandwagon. Ken, do you mind if we take a short break for maybe 5 minutes?
Sure, cigarette break.
Cigarette break. I'll just keep it on my screen and then share something here while I mute it.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. This is Emanating Sovereignty. Just stay tuned. I'm going to leave it on and show some ferrofluid in there with an ambiance of Starbucks.
I'll meet you back here in 5.
Okay.
Okay, back?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
for all the viewers, if you I hope you could just contemplate during that time. That was ferrofluid. For anyone interested in what that is, it's pretty cool to watch. But yeah, again, I'm in Lakewood, Ohio, where Ken actually went to high school, which is pretty cool. I'm in
And
his
work.
stomping ground, Edwards High School.
St. Edward's Eagles, yes. Under the oh God, what were they now? I forgot what they were. What order they were? I can't think of what brotherhood they were. That's terrible. I forgot. It's slipped my mind. It's not coming to mind right now. What hell order were they? It'll come to me. Anyhow, yeah, it was all boys Catholic school.
The Fraternity Order of Eagles.
It was the St. Edward Eagles, but it was the Brotherhood. It was the the guys who wear brown. Oh, I can't believe I can't remember it now. It slipped my mind. It's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Anyhow, yeah, Lakewood, Ohio. Yeah, many memories there. Many. Wow, that's wild.
Yeah. So we are back. We have another 30 or 40 minutes most likely for the rest of this episode.
Okay.
So yeah, we can go ahead and go back. I'm sorry?
Let's talk about the crown.
You said the crown?
British crown. Yes. Talk about the crown. I want to get people an understanding of how it ties in. Okay. And so what we have is a patented process that was done by some individuals that assigned off that Merrill Lynch had employed, or anybody, or Goldman Sachs, or any other bank for that matter. But Merrill Lynch is the king here. But they employed to get a commission of a patent of a process. Say, for instance, let's see, this one here is that's not a good one. This one is a creation and accession of accounts. Okay. So this is a patent. This is a patent that basically separates accounts and then puts them back together later. Okay, and so it's a process. Okay, that we've been incorporated into for exploitation purposes by virtue of taking our name. Okay, now what they've done is they have assigned, these inventors have assigned all rights, title, and interest to the patents as the inventors to Merrill Lynch and to anybody who wants to put their signatures, our signatures to it. Okay, so what this one here is, this one's real important. This one is for a patent that has to do with what they call pressing system, and really what it is it's a method of documentation. Okay, and this guy Stephen Gregory here, this was back in 2004. This was before it went to Merrill Lynch. He assigned all rights, title, and interest to the solicitor for the affairs of Her Majesty's Treasury. Okay, United Kingdom. This is right to the crown. Okay, and so what he's doing here, what he's done here, he has taken all this, his patent that he invented and his entity, and he uses the word entity in here, and he has assigned it all to the solicitor for the affairs of Her Majesty's Treasury, right to the crown. Okay, and then he's coming back in and saying that I relinquish all rights. So all the rights, all the improvements, successors are assigned entire right, title, interest throughout the world in my invention, in any form of my invention, in domestic countries or foreign countries. So he gave everything away to them, and that's how the crown gets us. But you know how we get rid of that? We just snip. We just snip it. We just cut it off. We denounce it. We revoke it. Now, here's another one that's real interesting because this has to do with that DNA. Okay, and this is from an English to an English entity that's already been signed over there from the United States, and it's the conveying party is the Secretary of State for the Home Department over in London, England, and the receiving party is Forensic Science Services Limited. If I could read a couple of passages of this so that you can get an idea of what we're talking about here. We're talking about with words and what they're doing here with these patents. Now, what they're saying here is they're defining patents as, well, first of all, they give definition of something called know-how, quote unquote. And they define it as all ideas, concepts, schemes, information, knowledge, techniques, methodology, and anything else in the nature of know-how. So what does that say? Knowledge, right? And then it defined patents as the patents and the patent applications listed in the schedules and the inventions described in those patents and patented applications, together with A, the benefit of any patent granted pursuant to any of the patent applications, the right to apply for patent or other protection in respect of the inventions described in those patents and patent applications, all rights to any continuations, continuances in part, extensions, reissues, and divisions, and any other patents or patent applications claiming priority from any such patent or application or from those in A or B above, together with similar rights which are based on or derived from any of the foregoing. Any supplementary protection, certificates, or similar rights which are based on or are derived from patents. All know-how relating to any of the above. So that basically gives away the house, right? Now, when they go in, now here's what there are a couple more paragraphs I'd like to read to you, a couple interpretations. The expression, quote unquote, full title guarantee in relation to disposal of anything implies the covenants referable to that expression as set out in section 2 and 3 of the law of property. Now we're talking about English law. I'm talking about United States law now. We're over in England. This is where they got us now, okay? So we're talking English law. Except that word reasonably shall be deleted from the covenants set out in section 2(1)(a)(b) of that particular act, and the covenants set out in section 3(1) of that act shall not be qualified by the words other than any charges, encumbrances, or rights which the person does not know and could not reasonably be expected to know about. So what are they telling you right there? Hide it. Keep it as a trade secret. And that goes on to say that for authority to sign. Now, when we signed those mortgage loan agreements, we were signing as the assigner, okay? And we nominated MERS. So we were given an assignment to MERS, right? Now, because we're dealing with our name here, anybody our name comes in possession of has the rights, title, and interest over us as the assigner or as the grantor, right? So what they're saying for the authority to sign, now put yourself back at that closing table when you sign those mortgage documents. The assigner, that's you, confirms that the assignee, that'd be MERS, is authorized to sign on behalf of the assigner all forms and documents that are required by the relevant patent office to record this assignment at the patent office in relation to any of the patents. The assignee hereby grants to assignor on and subject to the terms of this clause the exclusive option. Okay, that option they're talking about here is when they foreclose upon you. There was never a mortgage loan. When they're foreclosing upon you, what they're saying to you is that you're refusing to repurchase back your principal amounts. You're refusing to exercise the option that you never knew you had. Okay? And it's just, so they're saying that the option at any time to take a license solely for the services of the Crown, which for the avoidance of doubt shall not include any regional police authority from time to time or the National Police Improvement Agency of any or all of scheduled patents and their improvements and know-how. Such license being non-exclusive. Compensation. The assigner, again us, shall pay compensation to the assignee. So that's what we're doing. We gave them all, when they include us as the grantor in these patents, right, as the grantor assignor, we're agreeing, knowing to pay them compensation, right? So the assigner shall pay compensation to the assignee for any exercise of the option to reflect the fair value to the assignee of the license to the assignor. The assigner and assignee shall use all reasonable endeavors to agree the compensation payable without delay following the exercise of the option. So in other words, we're agreeing to let them do whatever they want with us, right? Because they got all rights over our signature, right? And they're saying for to be determined on the basis of a risk-adjusted assessment of expected actual outrun of net loss that derives, there's that word derives again, directly from the exercise of the option and for which the assignee, making reasonable endeavors, could not be expected to mitigate or replace and exclude sums that are derived from the Crown's ongoing use as a customer, that would be us, unless such sums have derived from an existing contract between the parties. And for the avoidance of doubt, the assessment to be made pursuant to the clause shall take account of the assignee's record at the date the option is exercised in successfully exploiting the patents and their improvements and know-how. So what does that tell you?
That once you sign it, they can start using your signature and sign over other things that also extend off of that. And that once they choose to do this option that you don't know about, that gives them rights to do whatever they want.
They take whatever they want.
If you don't,
they're doing it under the guise of know-how, that they know how, we don't.
So it's like, I'm signing this because I don't know. You can go ahead and take over from here.
That's right. That's right. So what they did was, of course, it's all presumption. Okay, it's all presumption because we never signed any of these contracts. Okay, but so they're presuming that we agreed to these things. Well, Christ, we thought we were signing a mortgage loan document. We had no idea we were signing an 18-page or agreeing to an 18-page underlying agreement that we were agreeing to give all rights, title, and license to our assumed business name, our fictitious business name, to all our trademarks, to all our assets and properties, or whatever they create off of those assets and properties in terms of intellectual properties and patents and trademarks, that they take it all and they put it in separate accounts. And they're doing it under the laws of the Commonwealth of the State of Virginia. So that throws us into the admiralty part of it. So this really, really, if I sit back and I look at it, it really blows my mind. What we're talking about here is the biggest thing in history. The biggest crime in history that we're talking about here. And it's all operating on the fact that, I know and you don't. And that's how it's operating. Once we get the know-how down, then they're done with, because they have no protection. And even in their own documents, okay, even their own documents and SEC filings, all the remedies are there for us. It's just that we're not looking at this stuff. They don't want us to look at it. Now, here's one other thing. Here's one other important patent here. This has to do with Delaware. This has to do with the trust that we're dealing with. Okay, so when they're foreclosing upon us, who's foreclosing upon us? It's a trustee, right? Well, this trustee is acting under Delaware law, and he's acting underneath the Delaware trust. And here's what it says. Here's how they're acting. Unlike a conventional trust, a directed trust is structured such that each client, e.g., truster, that's us, grantor, that's us, creator, that's us, trustee, etc., can designate his or her own investment manager to manage a portion of trust corpus assets, while the trustee still maintains fiduciary oversight. The availability of directed trust, in particular, the Delaware directed trust, has spawned an entire, quote-unquote, investment advisor market in which money managers offer their services to manage trust assets. Elements of the present invention bridge the divide that exists between these money managers, their brokerage tools, and other platforms, and establish trustee that operates through a bank and insurance services connected to banks. So what does that tell you? That tells you that, it tells right there that we're the investor, that it's presuming that we assigned and we appointed a trustee to act as our fiduciary, right? And that we picked out our own advisor. Well, we didn't do any of that stuff because nobody told us it was an investment contract.
So they're able to put advisors on some sort of market so that they can be your advisor.
Well, that's what they're not your advisor because they're acting in your name and they're building value to your estate. But they've taken it off the books and put it on their books so that they can come in at a later time. And so that, in other words, they separated you from your assets. So they separated your character. They separated your character is what they did, your public personality. So they can come back later, foreclose upon you, and then behind your back, when they're evicting you from your house, they could sign what's known as a motion for infantile decedent with the probate court that you don't even know about, so that you abandon your estate without even knowing it. And you're doing it all under your own signature, all under Delaware law. It's hideous. They're just speechless at times. These are the things we're dealing with.
That's a
dog's business
powerful
models.
signature. That's a powerful thing to
Yes, it is.
sign.
That's right. That's right. So it's very easy to make the argument, or very easy with confidence, to go to talk to these people and say, listen, I know what's going on here. I understand the bullshit. If you want to get down brass tacks, I understand the bullshit. This is what's being done with me. If you refuse to assist me, then I'm going to run right over you, because you've got no indemnities anymore. You've got no more protections, and I'm going to go after your bonds. Basically, is what I'm going to do. They have no protection now. So what's going to happen here is they're going to get out of your way. So you're going to see. Yeah, I see people at the county, in my case, filing things at the county. The county for a couple of years, I was fighting in court. These people were pricks to us. They were just nasty. But boy, when I started putting in some certain documents and copyright and just certain filings, and I had and I thought the way to go with this at one point in time was to do an in-camera exclusive equity. It doesn't work though, because the judges are on the tape, But I did manage to have an in-camera with my judge in a particular case, and ever since that happened, every time I go in the county, it's like they roll off the red carpet now. Because why? Because they're getting out of the way. I'm still in this house is because even though HSBC won the judgment, the judge not going to let him execute it, because he knows that I'm right on his doorstep, and I'm going to clean his clock if he does. Because when I get through all this process, he's not protected anymore.
So you strip them of the protection by you having the know-how,
yes,
of what's actually being signed.
And that's why I read you that one particular piece about know-how is a very important word, because that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to, we know, they don't. Because if they know, then we lose. That's what it comes down to. And so it's a matter now. Okay, well, now that we know this, how come we can't just go down to the county and just file something? Or how come we can't file something with the attorneys and they'll stop foreclosing upon us? Well, you know what? They're dumbasses. They're fools, because they're going to clean their clock. And as these things start to work their way through the system, these attorneys are going to get out of the way, because they're done with. They're done for. It's going to show at the end of the day that the documents will show that they they took action that went beyond any kind of moral integrity, and it went beyond anything.
They broke natural law. So they willingly and knowingly broke natural law in doing what they were doing with those paperworks.
That's right, and that's why the banks I can forgive, because we can cure those issues. But the bar attorneys, though, it's very hard to forgive them, because this was not done. This has been happenstance. Now the guys at the ground level, these foreclosure mill attorneys, they're the minions. I don't really care about them. Yes, I know the people that are dealing with these guys would love to see them castrated and hung, and I don't blame them. I do too. But the bar itself, though, at the end of the day, what I hope to see happen here, and I really feel it will happen, because it's just so clear once you get it, is that the bar will be hung. I mean, it'll show clearly that this is a system that is a system of slavery. It's a system of prostitution, in which we're being trafficked by a very well organized and executed and engineered system that has been put in place to operate seamlessly in the shadows, if you will, without any question. So now that you've taken all those tools away from them, you point to these things, and again, it goes back to the same thing. Anybody that we're talking to about these things on an intellectual level, like we're talking here, is going to be thinking to themselves, "Fuck, man, they did that to me too, not just you." And that's the powerful point.
Yeah,
there's no discrimination here. The only discrimination here is if you're one of the accepted elite. That's the only exception here, and that's what's disgusting about this. What's disgusting about this is that you've got the separation here is by those who claim that they're better than we are. This is higher education, but it's higher education that's used to exploit people, that's intentionally hidden from people. I don't know. Yeah, you can't put a word to it. You have to get words even been described to explain this stuff. At the end of the day, how bad it is.
Yeah, and it's infantile, and it's these little children who can't give up the comfort of stuff reinforcing that they are in a hierarchical order better than these other people that are not elite, and they can't give up that domination and control that makes them, builds their throne that they like to sit on, this imaginary bullshit throne.
Well, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's another thing, the reason why they're going to hang on this stuff is because the way that the technology is set up, it's all set up by a I can never say the word, hierarchical form, by father, son, daughter. I mean, Merrill Lynch is our pseudo parent. Okay, when MERS files initiates the servicer to file for default and foreclosure action, that's mom. That's MERS on mortgage. That's kicking us out of the family, so to speak. And the structure of these technologies drop down through a child, parent, child, cousin, son. I mean, that's the way it's structured. So it's structured in this tree, and that's how it's taken away from us. And it's taken away. And then now when we're talking about technologies, I mean, they've deliberately engineered it so that they separate us from our assets. But at the same time, though, they have to provide us the remedy, which is what allows us to come back and take it back. Number one. Number two, allows us to find it. We're not going to get all the records of these things, obviously, but we'll be able to find out a lot of the trespassers, because in order for them to get the tax credits and not pay taxes, they have to record somewhere at the IRS, and that's in shelter, and all those records are there. So when you do the digital keys, what happens? You remove that invisible wall, and all of a sudden you find out who's been trespassing upon you, because they have to report it to get the credit. It's beautiful.
Mm. Yeah. Because none of this could really be done without being at least shown to us, or it's just flat out breaking natural law, and more than natural law, universal law, doing harm to it. Do no harm to any living life. It's like a universal law, and they'll just like to be like, no, we're not doing it because they signed on this. They're kind of doing it to themselves through their own 1 degree of separation or whatever. They justify their little toddler bullshit games where they're actually prostituting us, selling us, securitizing our names.
And it's exactly what they're doing. I mean, and they're going to try to claim plausible deniability. Now obviously the people that are in revenue streams that really don't know what's going on, they're just taking the awards, and for the monetary awards or whatever it is, they're not going to, they're not going to have any knowledge of these things. But these bar attorneys that are pursuing these certificates and these electronic processes that are all patents, okay, that are integrated within the court system and everything, to where that they have oversight over, and they have the keys to, basically, it's going to be very hard for them to claim any kind of plausible deniability. They're not going to get away with it. They're not going to be able to. Now, Stephen, going on to another subject here. I've been getting some very interesting mail because of things I'm doing. Because I'm already in Treasury. I've got a lot of stuff that's gone through Treasury and whatnot. And really, the only thing I really got to do is tie our accounts together digitally. But a lot of stuff I already put through, and so I'm starting to get a lot of these annuity billings, basically. For there's one for it's a payment due for $32.08 from Athena, okay, annuity and life company, and it's very interesting because the policy date is January 4th, 1965. Okay, so that would have been about the time that I was born in '64. So, so think about the certificate of live birth, right? Think about that coming into here because it's the saving bond type things that convert to annuities, right? And so I'm getting notices on these things, and I'm getting some very interesting text in here. It talks about implications of what my actions are going to be and what I'm going to allow them to do as far as my information is concerned. So they're kind of scared here because they're giving me that decision, saying, "Here, make your decision." Now I'm getting full disclosure, okay? If you don't want us to give the information out to people, you can tell us not to. You can. So they're giving me. So I got all opportunity to come in and take control of this thing now, right? So what I did then was I went and I looked into, of course, looked them up on the trademarks and the copyrights. I got all their patents, all their copyrights, and tracked the whole line of where they go to. Of course, they go back to my originator and back to Merrill Lynch, and so it ties with all these chains and everything. And then I come across a bigger entity here. Anytime I see an entity, this is what I do. Anytime I see an entity, the first thing I do is I go to the United States Patent and Trademarks Office, and I go to the assignment section, and I type it in there because I want to see who they're contracting with and who they're dealing with on the information level, right? So this Athena company here is dealing with a company called Global Atlantic Companies. Hold on. It's a Global Atlantic Financial Group Limited, a company out of England and Ireland, okay? And its subsidiaries, of course, Commonwealth, Annuity, and Life Insurance. And here's one for you. Forethought Life Insurance Company. Think about it, Forethought. But see, these are all these lines of business that are spinning off these things, okay? So these are all insurances that rightfully should be ours. It's our inheritance, essentially, okay? It's our inheritance that they've been growing and are going to sell off. But because they see that I'm onto these things now I'm getting disclosures that I should have gotten years ago. See?
So you got an annuity from when you're one years old?
Yeah, that's been there since 1965. And I got a premium payment on it of $32.08. Now I know how these things work. Now a lot of times when people people are trying to get modifications and the services say, well, we can't give you one. You gotta wait 3 months. Don't make a payment for 3 months and we'll do modification, right? Well, of course it was bullshit because they wanted to default you, right? Well, what happens is they make 3 months of insurance payments, right? They're making 3 months of insurance payments while you're defaulting, right? They call default on you. Well, guess what? You just gave up your annuity to them. That's how it operates. That's how they're operating these things. So when they're doing these things to default people, they're doing it so that they can collect the insurances.
So that's, yeah. And they would not normally send that to someone who is not, doing what you're doing, right?
No, they wouldn't. This would be a sure accident. Okay. And I've been getting a lot of these lately. This is on purpose. Because they know I'm coming after them, and they know that I'm establishing my rights, and I can clean their clock essentially, and I will clean their clock. I'm debating here, and I think I'm going to do this anyhow. I'm probably going to make claims not just with Treasury. I'm probably going to make a claim with Merrill Lynch, because Merrill Lynch is was the trust that I was set up in, right? But everybody's set up in trust with Merrill Lynch because they're the head honchos, but. We have all rights to make a claim to the patent as the inventor of the patent or as harmed by the patent with the United States Patent and Trademarks Office and come in and take those securities back. Now, I've got tracking through Merrill Lynch. Now, this would basically apply to everybody because Merrill Lynch did establish a system. Whether you're with Wells Fargo or whoever, Merrill Lynch still set up the system that Wells Fargo fits into, all right? But just one Merrill Lynch patent spawned 1,200 other patents. That's so off just one Merrill Lynch patent. I'm in 1,200 other patents. Well, think about that. Think about what you're talking about. You're talking about money. You're talking about different revenue streams and different money-making schemes and different, a sub-trust, a sub-accounts, right? These are all things that are generating money. It's all monetized, right? That's mine. You don't have rights to that. That's mine. I want it back. It's a beautiful world we live in.
Yeah, and seriously, I'd like to thank you for every minute of all that painstaking work you've put into, uncovering the truth and exposing all this, and also sharing it. I'll share that blog link as well, so people can get into it and get actual, your details that you're sharing. But seriously, thank you, because you're helping everyone who's dealing with the system, and that's everybody, no matter they like it or not. They're empowering the system. They're dealing with it.
Right, and I have no, I don't want to. I can't wait till this is over. I want to go sailing. I want to go traveling. I want to live my life again.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't. The way I look at it, this is a God's blessing. I thought it was a curse 10 years ago. I thought I don't want to look at this stuff. I don't want to do any of this stuff. but I'm seeing how that it is a blessing, and to be able to share this with people is fantastic, and it has to be shared, because these are things that there's no price on this stuff. There's no price on freedom, all I can do is offer the information to people, and it's going to be there for people to look at. I would encourage everybody to please step out of yourself and the situation that you're in, and just put that aside and just hear some of this stuff. And even if you look at it a couple of times and think, I don't get this stuff, it's nonsense. Go back to it a couple of times. Don't give up on it, because it's vitally important that you understand these things. And when you do start understanding, ask people that don't take my word for it. Take the people on my Facebook page, like Tommy Hamrick and a few others who have studied this information, and they'll say, man, they agree with me. So those are like living testaments, I guess you could say there. That when you learn this stuff, it's very empowering, because now you have a whole different view of the world. The view is like, it's a pretty crooked world, but the possibilities that are here is amazing. It's incredible, and the power that you have to be able to come in and say, no, you're not going to push me around anymore. They can't arrest me for anything. What are they going to arrest me for? They can kill me, but what are they going to arrest me for? They can't, because I got too much on them. So it's really just a matter of just taking back our lives and taking back our country. And this is great. It's beautiful, non-violent.
Yes, seriously. Seriously, thank you though for sharing, and also for coming onto this show as well. It's I feel it's such needed information, and it's also the stuff on the forefront stuff, stuff that we're still learning. You're still learning it, getting it mastered, and now you're at like the best point you've been over the past 10 years. And there's only going to be greater things to share as well coming up.
Yes. We're at the stage now where it's the closing room, essentially. It's the closing room. So my advice to people, my suggestion to people would be, don't be so anxious to have me put out the final forms. Be anxious to get into this information so that you can understand it. Because you're going to have to understand it to push these things through. So take it. We have a good opportunity here to change things around. It's going to be a good year for us.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So it's time to take yourself back to the driver's seat, behind the truth inside your heart that it's all bullshit and corrupt. And do you want to go down all these mind trails of how corrupt it is or where they're getting you? Or are you going to look and see that there is remedy all around you? And there's people who've been working at this, and you can take the knowledge and the wisdom that they gain from actually turning that knowledge into action, and that's wisdom. So you can take the wisdom that Ken's sharing. He has his, different outlets where he's sharing. Add him on Facebook, at his blog. You'll see in the description that there's a link to this blog. And everybody who owns a home, this will benefit you, because you're giving the consent to those packets and packets and packets of paperwork that just trickle down whenever you sign it.
And
so
it's not your time. It's not just a home either. It's car loans, it's credit cards, it's school loans too. It's all those things.
So anything that you're signing, you're a merchant.
Anything you're signing. Yep. Anything.
So yeah, that's
one more
crucial.
Thing before we go.
Yeah, no problem.
Straw man. Let's talk about straw man for a minute. It's an outdated word, people. Don't use it. Okay.
The straw man has no brain. If you're still using it.
If you're still using it, you're not going to be understood. They're going to ignore you. Remember, you're a natural person that's living, but you're also a natural person that's an entity / organization. Read the OCC. I'll post these up. It's for you to read. You got to read this stuff. Read the OCC Articles of Association for Wells Fargo, for instance. They're talking about deposits being made by an entity. That's us. We're the entity that is depositing that note that converted to stock, to corporate equities, as well as created to convert to debt or reversed around debt and then lent out and everything. But we are the entity. You're not so you go in there and say, I'm the strong man. They're gonna think you're an idiot. Use the words that they're using. When we use that, that's powerful, because when we say that with the entity, we just find what the entity is, we can run right through these banks. They have no power. And you see that when you read these articles of association. You see exactly what they're talking about. Who's depositing what, who endorsed this to whom, and so on and so forth. So you follow this all the way through, and you get to the end of it, you think, wait a second, those sons of bitches. I got stock in Wells Fargo. I got stock in JP Morgan Chase. I got stock everywhere. When you define yourself as the entity, so your straw man, lose the word straw man. Please lose that word. Let's kind of grow up and mature and think like merchants, think like business people, to get out of these things and take control of our lives.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say.
Be out of the Wizard of Oz controlling it for you.
Right. Exactly. Strip him of his clothes.
Well, it's a great year. Great to be here on Walking With You into 2018, Sovereign, Emanating Sovereignty. And thank you for everyone who's viewed this. I'm glad to have it archived, so it's on YouTube, so anyone can come and watch it at any time. We have it in 2 parts.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. I appreciate it. And I'm glad to do it from your hometown.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, don't. Yeah, don't blow away in Lakewood when those cold winter chills come across the lake there.
Yeah, that's my backyard is eerie. Like through the window, there's the parking lot and then there's the lake. It's where I'm there, but it's cool. It's an experience for me.
Go to Pier W. Go to Pier W. It's a great fish restaurant. It's a great seafood restaurant there. It's in the if it's still there. It's over.
Yeah, I think it is. My girlfriend was talking about a restaurant on the pier.
Yes. It's over there on there's 2 sets of condominiums that were there. I forgot the name of them, but right there on the lake, right by where you're at.
They're still there. I'm in the last condo right before Cleveland. Right there.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, that's pretty wild. That's wild to be connected.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again. Thanks for watching Emanating Sovereignty, and it's down to you doing the due diligence and study. Word for it, everything's laid out, and people have done the work, but it means nothing unless you understand it and you get acquainted. So thank you again, everybody. You have a great 2018, and thank you, Ken Dost. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.